Brought to you by Penguin.
A Little Happier, written and read by Derren Brown. For the Little Pig Lace. Chapter 1. None of this is real. Happiness is perhaps the most elusive aspect of the human condition, although it masquerades as entirely straightforward. It seems as if it is something we should all have access to, and we're looked upon suspiciously if we don't possess it. Yet to chase happiness directly is a conspicuously self-defeating project. This book presents a model for happiness that dates back over 2,000 years, yet is pertinently modern. Many of the ideas here are in direct opposition to the tenets of the modern self-help industry, and most likely to our intuitions. Others may seem obvious, but in their cozy familiarity have lost much of their bite. I'm going to set out a model discussed at greater length in my book, Happy. If you've read that book, I hope this will serve as a handy reminder of the fundamental ideas it is perhaps a little easier to dip into. If you haven't, I hope that once you've read this, the longer book might offer you a chance to explore the ideas here in more detail. The ancient model we are for the most part considering is Stoicism, which is perhaps the most effective approach to finding contentment that the human mind has conceived. No one school of thought should pretend to offer the answer to everything, but I do think Stoicism is of enormous use, whether we adopt it as a complete lifestyle or simply use it in doses where it can make our life a better, calmer, more robust experience. At points in our discussion I will talk about the potential drawbacks of Stoic philosophy, and throughout embellish with other points that are not from their tradition but which I think are useful. Let's begin with fiction. We live amongst an infinite data source. There are limitless things we could think about or could pay attention to. To process all this information would be an impossibility, so how do we reduce it to something manageable? We tell ourselves stories. Stories about how the world works, about what people want from us, how things should be, how we should be, what we have to offer, how we relate to the world. And these stories allow us to simplify a complex and messy environment into something we can navigate, something that feels predictable enough to allow us to move forward. The nature of good stories is that they have neat beginnings, middles, and ends. Cause and effect are precisely delineated, characters are clearly cut. Stories supply us with meaning, but to do this, they have to exclude much awkward information and confusing nuance that would mess up the neat narrative arc. As we form these kinds of stories about the world, they tend to become enormously compelling, and we emotionally invest in many of them. We forget that they are just stories, and mistake them for self-evident truth. When we listen to a friend talk about an ongoing conflict in which she's involved, the chances are we will quietly sense there is another side to the story that's not being told. It's probably hard for her to see this, but if she could place her story alongside the stories of others, and realize that her perspective is far from the whole truth, we sense it might help her with her frustration. Our skepticism about her limited worldview would be affectionate on our part, and we forget to apply this same fond doubt to our own tales of what's going on around us. To offer an analogy from my normal job, imagine you're fooled by a magician. The magician is exploiting our story-forming urge to make us join up the dots in a way that suggests the impossible has happened. We know there's a rational explanation, so we're caught in a conflict which might be fun or annoying depending on what we think of magic tricks. But we are being shown that, however carefully we've been watching, we have unwittingly excluded some vital information. Or maybe we've watched too carefully and missed the bigger picture. Things are going on we don't know about. The story we've been cajoled into telling is compelling, but clearly inaccurate. Stories, it's been said, are things told in fire-lit clearings surrounded by darkness. But all that darkness, the bigger picture, is rejected from the cozy scene, while we remain mesmerized by the comfort of the firelight. Our first step, then, is to recognize the existence of that mysterious, obscure world of information we are simply excluding. This is important as...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?